Good morning and welcome back to One Baha'i, where I share my own thoughts on the Baha'i faith and how it applies to my life. Now, remember, this is nothing official. It's just the opinion of, well, one Baha'i. For something more official, why don't you visit Baha'i.org? I'll try to figure out how to put a link for that in here somewhere. Anyways, remember, I'm new to this. So I'm actually a fashion designer, not a web designer. Anyways, today I'm going to try something that was suggested to me by someone far more experienced at this than I am. He suggested that I write my quotes on the computer and read them from the screen. All right, I can do that. So, I'm still going to try to speak extemporaneously. Ooh, there's a big word. But I will have the quotes right there so that I'm not sneaking off looking for a book like I was yesterday. Well, unless a quote comes to mind that I haven't typed down yet. Anyways, we'll see. So, today, this morning I was reading the writings and I ran across a quote that intrigued me. Kind of like I did yesterday. The quote is from Gleanings, number 17. One little line from it. Tribulation is a horizon unto my revelation. Tribulation is a horizon unto my revelation. The pivot of Baha'u'llah's revelation is unity. And that's a unity in all things. It calls for, among other things, the elimination of the extremes of wealth and poverty. In other words, you should be rewarded for doing a more difficult job or a more dangerous one, or perhaps working harder, but not to the point where someone else is suffering from lack. So when he says, tribulation is a horizon unto my revelation, I think one of the things that it means is that we will see his teachings put into action. So, what I was wondering is what that looks like. What does it mean, tribulation, difficulties, is a horizon unto my revelation? Well, one thing that comes to mind is the concept of crisis and victory. I've been talking with a lot of people online about this lately, and I've had a lot of questions about it. I have said many, many times that, let's see, how did Shoghi Effendi put it? Such calamities cannot but each eventually prove to be a blessing in disguise. He says that, wow, I totally lost that. I did not type up this one quote. I'm going to find it again because it was really interesting. Oh yeah, he says that history is characterized by a series of pulsations, of alternating crises and triumphs. Boy, I wish I typed that one onto the screen. History is a series of pulsations, of alternating crises and triumphs. So I've had a lot of people question that. They've asked me, how can that be? Prove it. I don't see it. All right, well, let's look. Let's take a look at, for example, the 19th century in Europe. At the end of the 1800s, Europe had effectively colonized the world. This was seen as a phenomenal victory. Not only had they colonized the world, but they had astonishing peace treaties amongst themselves between all the different nations. There were just a huge webwork of peace treaties. Well, there was a huge webwork of peace treaties. Somebody was criticizing my grammar yesterday. I'll try to be better. So at the end of the 19th century, world peace was pretty much presumed. And yet, it was these fragile treaties that led very directly to World War I. The crises involving the various colonies and the colonization techniques, that's another story altogether. That has its own crises, as we are seeing today. But World War I was very much a direct result of these treaties, which were seen as a victory. World War I, huge crisis. The victory that came out of World War I was the founding of the League of Nations and the Treaty of Versailles. But the League of Nations had no teeth. It had no authority. It had no way to to effect its decisions. That and the exceedingly oppressive terms of the Treaty of Versailles against Germany in particular led very directly to World War II. World War II was another phenomenal crisis which led to the founding of the United Nations. The crisis in the United Nations is the Security Council. I think George Orwell had it right when he criticized the concept of the Security Council with the phrase, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Doesn't quite work. So the UN has its own crisis. But another thing that happened out of World War II was the astonishing development of the economy. It led to this economic domination of the world by Western ideology. And that, as we can see, is leading to its own crisis. When we consider, let's see, I wrote that down. Where was it? Oh, yeah, when we consider the way that Western civilization sees everything as a business, we run into problems. One of those problems is seeing healthcare and education as a business as opposed to a service. This is a huge crisis. When you try to run healthcare as a business for profit, as opposed to a service to humanity, it leads to a lot of cutbacks. And it is these cutbacks today that has led to the overwhelming crisis of this global pandemic. You see, the problem is not the pandemic itself. It's actually, from what I read, the outcomes of this pandemic. There are just not enough beds in hospitals. People are overwhelming the healthcare systems in all the different countries, preventing the healthcare systems from being able to take care of its usual business. If you have 1,000 beds and 2,000 people needing respirators, well, then the people who have a heart attack or a stroke can't get the healthcare that they need. So they're not dying of COVID-19, they're dying as a result of COVID-19 because the healthcare cannot help everybody that needs assistance. So this is a major crisis globally, as we are seeing. So what's the victory? Well, the victory is going to be a revamping of the healthcare system. The victory will be a re-understanding, a new look at how we focus on healthcare, how we look at taxes, how we arrange the concept of business. You see, the world really does move in these series of pulses, these crises and these victories. I'm not really sure where to go from there because to me it's just so evident. When I look around the world, when I look at all of my friends who are suffering, it's because of this crisis that has been building for decades. We think of business as too great a thing. I remember a few years ago, my son and I were in the car, and he must have been, 7, maybe 6. And something came on the radio, some news item. I don't remember what it was, but he piped up in the back seat. He says, "Papa, I don't understand this." All right. He knew that when he asked a question like that, I would turn off the radio and we would talk about it. And I said, "Shogi," that's my son's name. I said, "Shogi, every person, every culture, every society, every civilization has what it would call its greatest priority, its highest value. So when something comes in contact against that highest value, when it comes into conflict with it, the highest value will win. It's obvious. So what is the highest value in society today? Remember, he was 7. And he thought about it. And he threw his hands up in the air and said, "Oh, growing the economy. How stupid." And he realized that the question he had about this news item was solely due to the concept that growing the economy is our highest priority. How stupid. We value growing the economy more than a healthy environment. We value growing the economy more than healthcare, or the education of children, or any other problems that you can see around the world. So when he understood this, when he realized it, he realized how, as Baha'u'llah says, lamentably defective this world order is. So we need to come up to a new idea, a new understanding, a new concept of what is our highest value in society. One of them is going to be healthcare. That's obvious. It's going to be taking care of our environment, nurturing our individual members of society. We're going to be looking for a better balance between the individual, the institutions of society, and society as a whole. Right now, those three are in conflict. And it is this conflict which is causing so many issues in the world around us. So we're going to be looking around. We're going to be trying to redevelop the relationship between these three. That will be the great victory that will come out of this current crisis today. A lot of people are very concerned. They're very scared because they see this crisis, but they don't see the victory. And as a Baha'i, being made aware of this series of pulses, I have absolutely no doubt that we will see a victory from this current crisis. It is the way of the world. A plant, as it's growing, sends its roots down into the earth, looking for nutrients. And what happens? It hits a rock. That's a crisis. So what does a plant do? It takes the roots and it diverts them and sends them into a different direction, looking for nutrients. And the victory is that it will find them. A crisis can be a seed dying because there's not enough water. The victory is that the seed disintegrates. It breaks down and it becomes compost. It adds more nutrients to the soil itself. That's the victory. The victories are always where we look. If we take the time to look for the victory, we are guaranteed that we will find them. Ruhiya Khanum, marvelous woman. I read this just this morning on the internet, and I have it on the screen in front of me. She wrote, "The sweetest flowers of man's spirit have most often been watered by tears. To struggle gives strength. To endure breeds a greater capacity for endurance. We must not run away from our heartbreaks in life. We must go through them, however fiery they may be, and bring with us out of the fire a stronger character, a deeper reliance on ourselves and on the Creator who, like a good parent, chastises us because he loves us and because he knows what can be made out of us, and that the pain is worth the prize that can be won. Love, hate, passion, fear, sorrow, pain. They act on us and spur us on. They develop our qualities and give us color and individuality. We are not expected to like suffering. We should not foolishly think of it as some ascetics do, as a virtue in itself and cultivate it through self-mortification and torture. But we should, when the cup is at our lips and we have no choice but to drink it, drink it down strongly and courageously, knowing it will hurt, but strengthen, wound, but eventually heal. Beauty can give joy, pain can give strength, sorrow can deepen the whole nature of a person. We must try to get out of every experience in life the very best it can offer. So what can the trials and tribulations of today offer us? Well, for me, it's offering time with my family. I treasure this. I never dreamed that my wife and I would be able to spend so much time together. I said that yesterday, and I still say it today. I am so grateful for this opportunity. Sure, I'm missing out on an income, but this is more important. Sure, I would be able to do more things if I could visit all my friends and go about my daily life, but this is strengthening the bonds of family. It's giving me the opportunity to record these sessions. I would love to hear what bounties you are finding as you are home, disrupted from your daily life. What bounties are you finding? I'd love to read about them. I'd love for you to share them. Yesterday, I didn't really talk to you individually, dear viewer. For those of you who read my blog, you know that I always use the phrase dear reader. Well, I guess now it's dear viewer. I would love to hear what you're experiencing. What quotes are you finding solace in? What stories do you find refreshing and uplifting? What opportunities are there before you? You see, we have a great crisis. We are suffering through tribulations. But these tribulations, as Baha'u'llah says, are a horizon unto his revelation. I'd love to find out about what you see. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting. And if you have any more questions, I'd love to read about them. We'll see you tomorrow. Wow, I can't find the stop button. Okay, I'm still here. Ah, there it is. Stop recording. Okay, now I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.